Thank you for joining the second video of our Cloud Console guide. We do suggest that you watch our first video, Account Activation, where we cover logging in, upgrading, linking your account, and password reset prior to this video. In this video, we will cover the following topics: identity and access management for infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, creating resource groups in the Cloud Foundry organizations, inviting users and assigning access policy, and managing users. Before showing you how to add and assign users access to IBM Cloud Console, we want to introduce you to the identity and access management. With identity and access management, it will allow account security, user access control, and facilitate collaboration. Once the account is activated, the master credential can be used to log in to IBM Cloud Console. Being an account owner, we do recommend that our clients share their credentials with their team. However, IBM allows account owners to set identity and access management policy for each user based on their role within the company. By setting up individual access policies, you can secure your account from any unauthorized users accessing the console, monitor action taken by a user, facilitate collaboration between the groups while building the solution, and protect production workload on IBM Cloud. Now that you have a better understanding of what IAM is, we will now discuss the branches and sets of permissions that are included. Infrastructure as a service is one of the branches of IAM. Infrastructure as a service includes services such as compute nodes, storage, network, backup, and other ancillary services. With infrastructure as a service, you will be able to designate basic, superuser, and view-only permissions to users. After assigning the permissions during the invitation process, you will have the chance to go back and edit the permissions in the portal if needed later. As you can see, there are a lot of infrastructure permissions, and depending on the permissions type, basic, superuser, view only, the user will have full access to all permissions or limited access. The other branch of IAM would be platform as a service, and this is divided into two subcategories. The first would be resource groups, which enables you to group resources across regions and to manage access to those resources based on their resource groups. It is also important to note that there are two separate policies. The first would allow the user to access a resource group itself, giving users the ability to view the name and other characteristics. The other would give access to the resources within the group. We'll now provide a scenario later on in this video which should give you a better understanding of how this works. The other subgroup of platform as a service would be Cloud Foundry, which allows you to deploy applications fast with reduced development costs. You can continuously build, test, and deliver high-quality production code with confidence. With Cloud Foundry, you have two separate policies: organization role and space role, which we will discuss later. As discussed earlier, a resource service is everything that can be created, managed, and contained within a resource group. Some examples include container clusters, storage volumes, and many others. Here is a list of all the services that can be added to a resource group and managed by IAM access policy. As a best practice, the resource group should be created per project before adding the services from the catalog to ease user and service management process. To add a resource group, go to Manage, Account, Resource Group, and click on the Create Resource Group. The resource group cannot be deleted once created, but it can be renamed. Any resources within the resource group can be deleted. Not all services support the use of resource groups in IAM currently. All service instances that are added to a Cloud Foundry orgs and spaces when they are created from the catalog are distinctively different from IAM-enabled services. Cloud Foundry services have no connection to resource groups and use Cloud Foundry roles for access management at this time. To add a Cloud Foundry org, go to Account, Cloud Foundry org, add an organization. From this screen, you will be able to see the Cloud Foundry orgs along with the spaces created. For a successful project, take time to plan and design which resources you will need and what your company requirements are. To help you get started, design the structure based on these questions. How many and what type of apps are you developing? Which services do the apps need to access? Who collaborates in the development process and what role do they play? What degree of isolation is required for each phase of the project? How does your company communicate? Is there a naming standard that you can implement to clearly identify the organization and space usage? The account owner can create the org and give the project manager access to the org with the manager role at the org level, as well as the space level. The project manager can create as many spaces based on how your company has planned to manage the projects. You'll be able to start inviting users to specific spaces based on their role. As you can see here, this is the list of services that are currently managed by Cloud Foundry org and space level access. There are a lot of services here, and it's very important to understand how you organize your projects on the IBM Cloud. Once you have set up your organization, the next step would be to invite users. Once you have logged into the portal and are on the main landing page, you will need to follow the path on this page. Manage, Account, Users, click on Invite Users. This will bring you to the Invite Users page. Please include the user's email address in the light blue box. Keep in mind you can add additional users at any time. You will be able to grant specific access to these users by using the drop-down arrow for Services, Cloud Foundry Access, and Infrastructure Access. As a side note, if the user already has an IBM ID, the user will need to receive the invitation email and will be added to the IBM Cloud account. If the user does not have an IBM ID, the user will receive an email with instructions on how to register his/her email to IBM ID before gaining access to IBM Cloud Console. To give you a better understanding, we will now go over a few scenarios. The first scenario, the project manager at your company, Stephen, would like to use Cloud Object Storage to store large data. Stephen would like to add Mike so he can help manage Cloud Object Storage. In order to accomplish this, he will need to follow the steps below. Create a resource group, invite Mike to the resource group, define platform access roles and service access role. Just to note, IBM Cloud Object Storage is managed by IAM policy. We will now show you how to do this in the IBM Cloud Console. So the next scenario, the developer wants to build an application for their website and would like to access Cloud Foundry. The project manager, Stephen, would need to grant access to the developers. The first step would be for the master user to grant the project manager access to Cloud Foundry org and all spaces in all regions. The project manager can now invite developers to access development and testing space for the second step. We will now show you how to do this in the IBM Cloud Console. So for the last scenario, Steven, the project manager, has just created an IBM Cloud account for his company. They have logged in and set up a few users, and now they are getting ready to deploy some services. Before deploying services, Steven would like for Gary from the billing team to be able to access the account invoices before getting started. Steven will need to follow the below IBM Cloud Console path to grant Gary access. We will now show you how to do this in the IBM Cloud Console. And as one last note, at any point of time, the user permissions can be modified from the console by removing the user or providing additional access within the console. We'll now show you how to do this in the console. This concludes our video today. Thank you for watching and being part of our IBM Cloud platform.